Welcome everyone. Business model and people's role. This is what we will be talking in today's presentation. Let us begin with two questions. What exactly is business model? If you can understand, if you can tell me this, the answer of this question, you have already understand what we are going to talk about it and why create one. Definitely for the greater good for the common people, probably to earn profitability, probably to make a marked difference in the living standards. And who creates it? It's the employee who are working for it. So the two questions that is very vital is all about what exactly is business model and why to create one. So let us start with the answer. A business model is nothing but a simple representation of a complex reality of a business. Basically, you are having a instead of, let's say, a character user interface, you are going for a graphic user interface. It's basically a manifestation of the complexity in a layman's language, and that is what a business model is all about. So alert. By business model, we do not mean how the company makes money. Definitely not. But it is a byproduct of the company's operation, of about the revenue models, about the profitability. But what do we actually want to stay is this model that describes the details of its business, probably its goal that we are talking about, the organization structure, the organization strategy, the organizational processes, the organizational rule, and how does it play about it. And that is what we will be discussing in this particular slide, all for your understanding, right? So there it goes. We should be talking about business model in terms of goals, organization processes, rules, and so on and so forth. Remember, profitability and revenue generation is just to be treated as a byproduct of the company. Example, any city may have a complex reality that includes location of places, thousand of roads, thousand of pipe routes, thousand of cable routes. Now we're talking about cable routes to transfer your electricity. We're talking about pipe routes to transfer all your plumbing and water requirement. And we are looking at transportations of human beings, goods, and carriages thereby. It is by the roads that we are looking into it. See, this is how a modern city would be operating without the presence of roads, pipes, and cable. Probably modern day life is unmanageable or unimaginable, as the case might be. To be able to deal with complexity of the city, we make maps. We make maps of roads, of location, maps of electrical cables, maps of water pipe. And this is what the simple representations of business is all about it in respect to the operation of a city, if we can map it out. And that is what is business model we'll be talking about. Each of this map should be considered as a model. The model will help us to make good decision of how to go to places, where to dig in, what to find the electrical cables, the water pipe thereby. We need to understand, we need to figure out the answers to these such questions every now and then, as in what exactly is the business model we are looking forward to. Yes, business have a complex reality. To be able to manage this reality and solve business problem, we need to create business model. Definitely the operations of a company has become much more dynamic, much more complex, much more uncertain, and we have to be reactive to these possibilities of the environment which might not be working in tune with our predictions. So it is a complex reality, and if we can manage this reality, this business is a problem, we require to have a model in place, a business model in place. Businesses, people are increasingly using models to communicate. Over the last 15 years, believe me or not, with the advent of information technology, with the advent of technology, and which can be evidently seen in last 2 or 3 years, where the pandemic had struck the world dumbfound. Increasing number of people have built business models, models of business processes of their organization, the goals, the strategies, and the policies and the rules that there are to be found as such. This is what I say, the rise of business modeling. It is try to predicting or probably manipulating the volatile uncertainty, complex and ambiguous environment that has been presented in front of us day in, week out, week in, month out, month in, year out. year in, decades out, as the case might be. You look at it into it, there are no cyclical natures to it. It is all getting complex. It is not regular. It is becoming irregular as far as the environment is concerned, as far as the economy has been concerned, as far as the customer preferences have been changing over a period of time. So, what is driving the growth of a business? I will talk about the three models that going around it. The first answer: information technology organization are using business model to align informational technology initiatives with the business suite. So we are basically bringing in big tech into focus, big data into focus, and trying to manipulate the businesses in tune to the preferences. We are designing algorithms so as to predict the predict eventual models and outcomes of any initiative that we may undertake, and in n numbers of situations that can be modeled upon it. So the second questions would be about the what is driving the growth of a business model. Model, believe me or not, will help you to understand the implementation of the change. If nothing change, you don't need a model. Just you don't need a street maps. You will never travel anywhere. So basically, if you're not looking for a city, you're not going to move in the city. You're going to stay put in your home. Do you require a map? Probably not, but we require a model. Why? Because we are going to mitigate the changes. We are going to make changes in our environment and do business in the or in a fashion that benefits the greater cause and addresses the common needs of the people. The third answer would be to the need to manage complexity as we are talking around it. The complexities which is increasing on every parameters in terms of custom preference, in terms of taste, in terms of let's say the economy, the capital, the currency, the commodity prices. We are getting complex. The complexity is the key problem in business today. Decisions are definitely harder now because there are more to consider. When I say more to consider, we are flooded with options. A person who wants to purchase or probably experience or even like to relax in a leisure time has a number of options to relax altogether. This is what we need to understand as far as decisions are concerned. So, what is driving it? Business have become much more complex. 20 years ago, businesses were easier to understand. There were fewer business processes, fewer products, and fewer services, less data stored in databases, fewer business partners, and fewer lines of business, as the case might be. So, what are we talking about? It I am talking about options, options, and options. People are flooded with options. So, our businesses are also. Businesses now can have a lot of segmentation in the customer profiling, which were absolutely minuscule or absent a few decades earlier. People never used to have so many options. Even the business never used to have so many segmentations of the customer profile. So 20 years ago, businesses were easier. Now, what are we talking about? Business processes. Now, we can service a customer through an online portal, through a vendor, or directly we can have our retail service outlet out there. We can The customer can visit us in a brick and mortar store. Definitely yes. The customer can again visit us in the metaverse. Definitely yes. So what are we looking into it? We are changing the taste profile experiences everywhere and every parameter. So we have increased complexity. What was or life has become much more complicated in what was life approximately a decade or two back. So, business values and business models. Let us understand what exactly is the values and the models. How are they related? One is communication between people. Yes, definitely how we communicate. Training and learning, persuasion and selling. Now is the days of continuous persuasion. We were earlier were looking into selling part of it, probably a small transaction where there is a product in lieu of money being done about. But nowadays we are looking at not only selling for only one end of the product. Probably we love to push the annual maintenance contract, the service sectors that being associated to the product. Probably we are going to offer an exchange to the product. Now that is what is known as persuasion. Analysis of business situation is what everybody has been doing around it. The person, the business which is stupendously doing well is basically is reacting to the analysis first to the environment, and trying to put a right tab on the business environment in the first place. Compliance management is obviously one of the things. The world is becoming a small, one whole small village, and herein we have to make a lot of compliances depending upon the country that we operate, depending upon whatever the rules and the laws of the land needs to be followed upon it. Yes, a business might be centric in USA, but probably its customers or the end customers might be located majorly in Africa or probably in Southeast Asia, as the case might be. So how do you go across it? Development of software requirement and knowledge management and the reuse of it. Definitely, yes, this is what we are looking forward to. So communication between people. Business is all about communication intensive activity. Business people give presentation about companies' performances. Business people talk to their clients, to their supplier about a new product, about a new services. Business colleagues talk about each other, about changing competitive environment. Much of the business is all about communication. Remember that thing. Business models are better for conveying complex business information, and that is what we are looking for to build up a business model. At the same time, this business model should encompass the communication which is durable, transferable, and at the same time private, and it should not be able to, anybody cannot tap into that conversation because it might have vital information about with regard to the operations of the business per se. So business colleagues talk to more each other in this complex changing competitive environment. We'll talk about the training and learning. People basically learn in two ways. What? They learn from their own experiences or via trial and error. Of the best methods to learn is by learning from other people's experiences via conversation, books, classroom material. So we need to understand, how do I learn? I either do it from my experience of doing it, experiencing it. Now after experiencing, my experiences can be a pleasant one because the outcome is successful, or my experiences will be a bad one because the outcome was not favorable. So that's one way to learn, and the better way to learn is to learn from somebody else's experiences, where they share about their experiences in their classrooms, in their books material. Learning from other people's experiences, of course cheaper, of course faster, of course less risky. We allow others to make mistakes instead of making our own. Business model are one way of learning from people experiences. First, a model has been built based on an expert knowledge of the business rules and business process. Then many novices can study the model to learn what the expert knows about it. Yes, this is what we are looking forward to. Persuasions and selling in business, persuasion is ubiquitous. Yes, definitely, yes, it is. When we sell a customer or a product, we are persuading. We are basically, I said we are not no longer selling. In fact, what happens in selling is there's a one-time transaction between the company and the customer. But in persuasion, it is we pursue the customers for an after-sales services, for an annual maintenance contract. We pursue the customer for a next exchange purchase on the same product for a next better upgraded model. So when we pitch a new initiative to our management, we are basically doing nothing but persuading. When we convince our employees to embrace a business process change, we are doing nothing but we are persuading. Persuasion is all about communication. It is communication in the service of the goals, convincing someone to take action favorable to us, to our organization, or to themselves. Business model are useful for persuasion altogether. Let us come and understand the analysis part of it. Remember, we are talking in terms of insights, and insight is all about power. Remember, earlier times we used to say knowledge is power, and as a result, what we used to do, we used to withhold knowledge, and because that seemed us put us in a higher echelon. But nowadays, knowledge is everywhere, data is everywhere, available freely on the net, probably. Now, how do you make a sense about that data? How do you confirm an information from those data? And that exactly is insight. Now we have changed from knowledge is power to becoming the insights as a power. Analyzing a business model is particularly definitively useful when you have a decision to make, when you have the relevant data sources, when you have the right data at your disposal, the different alternative scenarios can be modeled, and the model then can be analyzed and compared. For example, you compare different business process scenario to see what is the lowest cost. The low cost scenario can be compared to today's business process so that you can understand what activities needs to change, what new activities needs to be performed, and what activities should be automated. This is where your skills comes into play. If you have something missing in your arsenal in terms of your skill, you need to acquire them. You need to keep yourself abreast with the situation, abreast with the technology changes that is in vague, absolutely in process altogether. Let us understand compliance management. Businesses has to, it is a must that they should comply with the legal laws of the land, the government regulation, and from time to time the guidance that has been extended or provided by the authorities. Thereby they must comply with the terms of contractual agreement with their lenders, suppliers, and customers. Yes, corporate employees must be complying with corporate policies. Compliance often impact financial results. Sometimes the impact is larger than money. Non-compliance can lead to jail. A business needs to design process to ensure compliances, and when regulation change, it needs to understand the impact of new regulation on its businesses. Yes, many a times what happens is government might give you an incentive to promote a certain industry altogether. If your company falls into that industry, you need to take advantages of it. But at times what happens is government might not extend any incentive to a particular industry. So how do you go about it if your company belongs to that group of fall into that kind of industry? So you need to understand the intricacies of the legal tenders that have been floated out, the guidance that has been given by the authorities from time to time. Remember, non-compliance can be detrimental to the business. So yes, we need to design process to ensure compliances. Whenever there's a change, we need to understand the change and probably attune the business operation accordingly. Requirement for software development. Yes, the requirement provides description as what exactly is proposed software application should do. In fact, nowadays everybody, in fact all applications are being framed for any industry, any company. Let's say even a school or a college might have their own software wherein they can go log in and probably pay their fees, look at their attendance, submit their assignments, and so on and so forth. Probably yes, it's from the student perspective. As from the faculty perspective, it can be different. They can have their lessons plans, they can have their presentation, they can share it, their assignments up, evaluate the assignments, and give the marks accordingly. This is what we are looking into it. Business model captures this detail in a particular fashion that is understandable to both the users and the developers of software. Business users do not need to understand how the system will be created. They need to understand how they are going to support their needs. Business model are far better form of requirement from the end users, as the case might be. This is what we are looking forward to. Let us come to the knowledge management, the last slide for the day. It is what we look ahead to. Knowledge management is the practice of systematically capturing knowledge, data, information from some people in an organization so that these knowledge can be used elsewhere. Remember, elsewhere in the organization or at sometime else, some point of time which is later, let's say next quarter or next fiscal year. Remember, knowledge management practices that is captured on today is only half relevant of knowledge. Typically, knowledge management practice captures explicit knowledge found in existing document, but not the tacit knowledge that comes from the people's head. Tacit knowledge includes what people do, why they do it, and how they do it. Tacit knowledge includes each document is to be used and the reason thereof. With this, I come to an end of this particular presentation on business model and people power. Thank you for watching this video. Nevertheless, thank you very much.